Hi. Okay, we started solving absolute value problems last week, either on Thursday or on Friday, depending on what class you're in. So we're going to take that one step further. We're going to start doing word problems, but most of the word problems we're going to do, we're mostly going to spend time just setting them up. Absolute value word problems, I kind of think, are a lot easier than a lot of the other word problems, but you'll see that in just a minute. So don't get worried. I know that a lot of people don't like word problems particularly, but these aren't really as bad as you think. Okay, let's get started. So a minute ago I was hungry, and I looked at my pantry and I had these. So these are little honey graham sticks. They're like little cookies, basically. They're like graham cracker cookies, kind of. I had gotten them for my niece, but she's not here today, so I was eating them. And I looked at the box, and it told me that this box has approximately 226 grams in there. That's when it's full. Now, if I had been thinking about this, I would have weighed it ahead of time, but I didn't until after I had already eaten a bunch of them. So we're just gonna pretend that I had already weighed it. So when you buy stuff like this, when you buy cookies or chips or like the little graham cracker sticks, these things that I was just eating, they don't fill these packages by number of graham crackers or by number of chips. So you don't have like your Cheetos or your hot Fritos or whatever, you don't have them coming along on a conveyor belt and then a computer counting out each one of the chips. What they do is they do it by weight. So you'll have it come along on a conveyor belt, and so they might, let's say this is your little bag of chips, and it might be sitting on a little scale, and the little computer might have a funnel up here, and it's filling in chips, and all these chips go in, and then it weighs on the scale. So it fills it in, fills it in, fills it in until it reaches the weight that it's supposed to be at. So in this case, it's supposed to be around 226 grams. Now, it's not going to be exactly 226 grams. So what the company says is, okay, well, we can't just put like 10 grams in there and sell it as 226 grams. It has to be within a certain range. So what they'll do is they say, okay, well, this is our target. We want 226 grams, but we might go either side of that. We might go like, let's say within 15 grams. So you might have a plus 15 from there. You might have a minus 15 from there. Anything within this range is considered acceptable, and they'll label it as 226 grams. I'm not sure how tight that is. It might be 10 grams instead, or it might be plus or minus 5 grams. We'd actually have to ask the company and see what they say. But for the sake of our problems, let's just say that their goal is they want within 15 grams either side of this 226 grams. So that's your acceptable limit. So let's say I go to the store and I buy my graham crackers, and I get back home and I'm like, man, this box is light. This just does not feel right. If I weigh it and it's not within these limits, then I've been scammed. They cheated me. So what you could do is we could say, well, okay, well, I want to know if I've been cheated. So our target is 226, so target 226 grams. That's what they're telling us. It could be plus or minus 15 grams. So what we want to know, let's come up with an equation. We'll say X is the weight of my box, or weight of our box if we just bought this. Okay, weight of our box. And let's say we weigh our box, and our box is 218 grams. And we go, well, hold up. Is that within the acceptable limit? So what we could do is we could solve this as or we could set it up as an absolute value. And what we could say is we could say, well, if it's within that acceptable range, then really, if we take what our box weighs and we subtract the target, then the absolute value of that should be the distance, right? That should be this distance on either side of 226. So we should have a 15 here, plus 15 on this side, minus 15 on that side. Maybe I should put it down below because that's not really a number. So we want this distance has to be 15. This distance has to be 15. So we want to know the upper limit and the lower limit so we can see if our box is good. So upper, lower. So to solve upper and lower, we would just solve our absolute value equation. If we wanted to know if it was in that range, what we could do is we could put less than that. And that would, if we put less than, then we would shade this whole area in. That's what happens if we do that. But let's look at it. Let's just solve it instead of doing a less than. So if we want to solve this, we could totally do that. Now we came up with steps the other day. Let me write those over here again. I'm a huge fan of writing my steps on the right hand side so I don't forget. Step 1, we wanted the absolute value by itself. Step 2, we needed to set up two equations. I'm gonna abbreviate that EQ for equations. And then step 3, we're gonna solve. And then, oops, not solver, solve. Yeah, there we go. Step 4, we would check. So in this case, we have absolute value of x minus 226 equals 15. Our absolute value is already by itself. So then, what we would do, let me move these around real quick so I could make myself a little bit more space. Put this down here a little bit. There we go. Put this over here. Cut and paste is amazing. There we go. That's better. Okay, so we're going to set up our two equations since this is already all by itself. So remember what we said in class, we had x minus 226 stays the same, that doesn't change. So they're both going to be x minus 226. The difference is now this one's going to be equal positive 16, and this is going to equal negative 15, sorry, not 16, and this one's going to be negative 15. And the reason is, remember, we're going to the right or to the left. Okay, now to solve it, we're going to add 226 plus 226. On the left side they cancel, so you have x equals 15 plus 226, that's like 241. So that's going to be the upper limit of what our bag of cookies or box of cookies could be. Now this, we're going to plus 226 plus 226. That's 226 minus 15, so x equals 226 minus 15 would be 211, I believe. So what that means is that our upper limit now is 241. Now we could plug that back in and check, and that would, I believe that would be correct. And then we have 211. And if our box weighed 218, then that's within that. It's greater than the lower limit, so that would be okay. We didn't get scammed. We feel like it because it doesn't weigh 226, but we didn't actually get scammed legally. Okay, we'll do more of these in class.